Alarms blared through the Dauntless, Admiral Vasquez's flagship, as red warning lights bathed the bridge in an eerie glow. The sleek blue and silver ships of the Galactic Council had formed a blockade around Orion Prime, their weapons primed and aimed at the human fleet. "This doesn't make sense," Commander Juno whispered, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "They were supposed to be our allies." Admiral Vasquez's grip tightened on the edge of the command console, his knuckles white. His dark eyes scanned the incoming fleet, searching for any sign that this was some kind of misunderstanding. But there was none. The Council's warships, the same ones that once stood beside humanity against the Greykthal invaders, were now moving into attack formation. A voice crackled over the comms, deep and laced with authority. It belonged to High Chancellor Varax of the Galactic Council. "People of Earth, your expansion into the stars threatens the balance of power. We offered you a place among us, and you have squandered it. You will stand down and surrender your colonies immediately." Vasquez felt a cold rage settle in his chest. Surrender? He spat. "We bled for the Council. We fought their wars, we defended their borders, and now they turn on us? They never wanted us as equals," Juno said bitterly. "Only as expendable pawns." A comms officer turned to him, fear in her eyes. "They've locked weapons." There was no time for negotiation. No time for diplomacy. "Shields up! All ships, evasive maneuvers!" Vasquez roared. A second later, the void of space lit up as the Council ships opened fire. The first salvo tore through Dauntless's escort ships, shattering hulls like paper. Explosions erupted in the blackness, each one a death knell for hundreds of human lives. The bridge shook violently as energy blasts slammed into their shields. "Return fire!" Vasquez bellowed. Human vessels unleashed their own barrage, but they were outnumbered, outgunned. Council technology was superior, sleeker, deadlier. One by one, the ships of the Orion fleet winked out, consumed by fire and debris. A desperate voice came over the comms. "This is the colony defense grid. Our planetary shields are failing. We won't last." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. Vasquez didn't need to see the planet to know what was happening. Orion Prime was burning. "Admiral," Juno said, her voice low, "we have to retreat." Vasquez clenched his fists. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to fight, to make these traitors pay. But the battle was lost. If they stayed, they would be slaughtered. Humanity's survival depended on escaping to fight another day. His jaw tightened. "All remaining ships, execute emergency jump to Shadow Point. We regroup there." As the Dauntless's engines roared to life, Vasquez cast one last look at Orion Prime. The jewel of humanity's outer colonies was dying, wreathed in flames. The Council had made a mistake. They thought humanity would surrender. They thought this was the end. They were wrong. This was only the beginning. The asteroid base known as Shadow Point wasn't much to look at, just a jagged rock drifting in the cold void, its surface pockmarked by ancient impacts. But beneath that lifeless shell lay humanity's last hope. Deep within its tunnels, the remnants of the Orion fleet gathered, battered and broken but still alive. Admiral Vasquez stood at the center of the command chamber, surrounded by holographic projections of their dwindling forces. What had once been a proud fleet of over 100 ships was now reduced to a desperate handful, 26 vessels, most of them damaged, their crews shaken by the betrayal at Orion Prime. "We've lost contact with 6 colonies," Commander Juno reported, her voice laced with frustration. "The Council's forces are sweeping through human space like a wildfire. They're not just defeating us, they're erasing us." A murmur spread through the officers present. Fear, anger, despair. Vasquez felt all of it, but he couldn't afford to let it show. He turned to Juno. "What about Earth?" She hesitated. "So far, no direct attacks. But intelligence suggests the Council is preparing for a full-scale invasion. They're waiting until we're too weak to resist." A heavy silence fell over the room. Everyone knew what that meant. "Then we make sure we're not too weak," Vasquez said firmly. "Surrender isn't an option. If Earth falls, humanity falls. We fight." A scoff came from the back of the room. Colonel Anders, leader of the ground forces, crossed his arms. "Fight with what?" he demanded. "We don't have enough ships, enough weapons, enough people." "We still have something," a new voice cut in. Dr. Evelyn Carter stepped forward, her face pale from exhaustion, but her eyes sharp with determination. "A way to fight back." Vasquez frowned. What are you talking about? She activated a hologram, revealing the schematics of a sleek, cylindrical device pulsing with raw energy. This is the Excalibur project, a prototype weapon designed to disrupt the energy fields of Council ships. In theory, it could cut through their strongest shields like paper. A spark of hope flickered in the room. The problem? Carter continued. It's incomplete. We need a rare element, Trixium, to power it. And there's only one known deposit nearby. Vasquez didn't need to ask. Council-controlled territory. Carter nodded. Tarvos 9. Heavy defenses, but if we get in and out quickly, we might have a chance. Colonel Anders grinned. Sounds like my kind of mission. Vasquez looked at his people, the last line of defense for humanity. He saw fear, but also resolve. They had been beaten, but not broken. He turned to Juno. Get me Captain Cole. We're putting together a strike team. The war wasn't over. Not yet. Captain Darius Cole sat in the dimly lit war room, staring at the holographic map of Tarvos 9. The planet was an icy wasteland, its surface blanketed in eternal blizzards. But beneath that frozen exterior lay a treasure trove of Trixium, the rare element that could power Dr. Carter's Excalibur weapon. We'll have a 2-hour window, Carter explained, tapping the projection. After that, the Council's orbital patrol will sweep the sector. If we're still on the ground, we're dead. Cole exhaled sharply, glancing at the small team assembled around the table. Elite soldiers, each one hardened by years of war. Sergeant Rourke, his demolition expert. Lieutenant Vale, the infiltration specialist. Corporal Singh, their sniper. And, standing in the shadows, the one Cole trusted the least, Commander Juno. Juno caught his stare and smirked. Something on your mind, Captain? Cole leaned forward, voice low. Yeah. The fact that you used to work for the Council. Juno's smirk faded. And now I'm here, risking my life to stop them. Cole wasn't convinced. Convenient. Vasquez cut in before things escalated. You don't have to trust each other, he said. You just have to complete the mission. Get in, get the element, and get out. Cole sighed. Fine. But if anything goes wrong, I will put a bullet in her. Juno chuckled. Noted. The Raven, a stealth dropship, cut through the frozen atmosphere of Tarvos 9, its engines whisper quiet. The planet's surface was a blinding white hellscape, winds howling across jagged ice cliffs. Cole's earpiece crackled. Landing site is 2 clicks from the mining facility, the pilot reported. I can't stay long. Council sensors will pick me up. Cole signaled his team. Move out. The squad moved swiftly, cutting through the ice and snow toward the mining complex. Enormous drills and conveyor belts lay dormant, the site abandoned except for automated defenses and Council patrols. Vale knelt by a security console, hacking into the system. We're in, she whispered. Main storage is beneath us, 2 levels down. They advanced through the metal corridors, silent as ghosts. But as they reached the storage vault, Singh cursed. Contacts. 2 squads. Heavily armed. Cole clenched his jaw. They had minutes before they were detected. Juno, he said, you ever talk your way out of a fight? She grinned. All the time. Juno stepped forward, activating her old Council ID badge. When the patrol spotted her, their weapons lowered in confusion. Commander Juno. One of them asked. That's right, she said smoothly. We have a high-priority extraction order. This Trixium shipment is being reassigned to. The nearest soldier's eyes narrowed. Commander Juno is dead. Then the shooting started. Bullets and plasma blasts tore through the hallway as Cole and his team dove for cover. Alarms blared. So much for talking, Rourke muttered, throwing a grenade. The explosion rocked the facility, sending soldiers flying. Cole turned to the vault door. Vale. Get it open now. Vale's fingers flew across the keypad. Almost. A railgun round tore past Cole's head. Singh dropped the sniper who fired it, but more were coming. Vale swore. Security lockdown, Juno. I need your override code. Juno hesitated for half a second too long. Now. Cole barked. She snapped out of it and input the code. The vault hissed open, revealing shimmering blue crystals of Trixium stacked in containment units. Cole and Rourke grabbed as much as they could carry. Move! The team sprinted back toward the surface, enemy fire biting at their heels. The Ravens swooped in, side cannons blazing to cover their escape. As they boarded, Cole turned to Juno. "You froze back there." She didn't deny it. "I got it done." Cole's eyes were cold. "Next time, that hesitation gets us killed." The Raven shot back into orbit, leaving fire and destruction in its wake. They had the element. But now, the Council knew they were coming. The Raven hurtled through space, engines pushed to their limit as Captain Cole and his team raced toward Shadow Point. Behind them, Council ships prowled the sector, their sensors sweeping for any sign of the fugitives who had stolen Trixium from under their noses. Inside the dropship, Cole examined the glowing blue crystals in the containment case. "This is it," he murmured. "The key to turning the tide." But they weren't safe yet. Multiple bogies incoming. The pilot shouted. "Council interceptors, fast movers." Cole cursed. "Evasive maneuvers. Get us into the asteroid belt." The Raven dove into a dense cluster of tumbling rocks, the Council ships hot on its tail. Plasma fire streaked past, illuminating the cockpit in flashes of deadly light. The ship shuddered as debris battered its hull. "Shields at 20%. Cole turned to Juno, his voice sharp. "Do something useful, get us a way out of this." Juno scowled but quickly accessed the ship's tactical console. "There's a narrow gap between those two asteroids. If we time it right, we can slingshot through and lose them." "Do it," Cole ordered. The pilot banked hard, angling the ship through the tight passage. The nearest interceptor wasn't so lucky. One miscalculated move and it was crushed between two colliding asteroids. The remaining pursuers hesitated. That moment of doubt was all the Raven needed. "We're clear," the pilot confirmed, relief in his voice. "Setting course for Shadow Point." Cole exhaled, his heart still pounding. He turned back to his team. "That was too close. We need to be ready. This war just became personal for the Council." Back at Shadow Point, Admiral Vasquez stood in the war room, staring at the stolen Trixium as Dr. Carter ran her scans. "This will work," Carter said, excitement flashing in her exhausted eyes. "The Excalibur weapon is nearly operational." Vasquez nodded but didn't smile. "Then we need to strike first. The Council knows we have this. They won't wait." Juno cleared her throat. "They don't just know," she said carefully. "They were expecting us." Silence. Cole's eyes narrowed. "Explain." Juno hesitated, but there was no point in lying now. "When I used my old codes to access the vault, they worked, but only after a delay. The Council must have traced the authorization. That means they know where we are," Vasquez finished grimly. An alarm blared through the base. "Enemy fleet inbound." Vasquez turned to Cole. "Get your team to the front lines. We have minutes before the Council arrives." Cole tightened his grip on his rifle. They had the weapon, but now they had to survive long enough to use it. The final battle was about to begin. The void above Earth churned with fire and death. The Council's armada had arrived, blotting out the stars with their sleek warships. Their fleet was vast, dozens of capital ships, thousands of fighters, a force meant to crush humanity in a single strike. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, gripping the railing as his battered fleet formed up around him. Only 26 ships remained, barely enough to be called a fleet. But surrender was not an option. "We hold the line," Vasquez said, voice steady. "For Earth. For the fallen." The comms crackled. High Chancellor Varax appeared on the screen, his reptilian face unreadable. "This is your last chance, Vasquez," Varax said. "Kneel, and humanity will be spared." Vasquez's lips curled into a grim smile. "You betrayed us. Now, you'll learn what happens when humans refuse to die." He cut the transmission. "Fire everything." The battle erupted. Human ships darted through enemy lines, weaving between the Council's heavier vessels. Plasma cannons roared, torpedoes streaked through space. Explosions bloomed like dying stars. On the Raven, Captain Cole and his strike team launched toward the enemy flagship. Their mission: deliver the Excalibur weapon directly to the heart of the Council fleet. Dr. Carter's voice came through the comms. "You'll need to get within 500 meters of their command ship to fire. Any further, and the weapon won't penetrate their shields." Cole scowled. "That close? We won't have time to escape." "Then don't miss." The Raven weaved through the carnage, dodging Council interceptors. The flagship loomed ahead, massive, a floating fortress of metal and death. Brace for impact! The Raven smashed into the enemy hull, its magnetic clamps locking it in place. Cole and his team stormed the corridors, blasting through alien guards. Blood slicked the floors. Juno led the way to the core chamber, her knowledge of Council layouts proving invaluable. "We set the weapon here," she panted, planting the device against the reactor. Cole activated the charge. 5 minutes until detonation. Then, an alarm blared. The blast doors slammed shut. High Chancellor Varrock stepped forward, a plasma blade humming in his claws. "You should have surrendered," Varrock hissed. Cole raised his rifle. "Not in our nature." Varrock lunged. The fight was brutal. Varrock was fast, almost too fast. He slashed through Rourke, sending the big man crashing against the wall. Juno fired, but Varrock deflected the shot, sending the blast ricocheting into Singh. Cole dove low, dodging a killing blow. He grabbed the fallen plasma blade and drove it into Varrock's chest. The High Chancellor snarled, eyes burning with hatred as he fell. The countdown hit 0. "Go!" Cole shouted. The team barely made it back to the Raven before the weapon fired. A blinding lance of energy erupted from the core, ripping through the Council fleet. Shields collapsed, hulls disintegrated. The Council's flagship imploded, taking half their armada with it. The remaining alien ships fled in terror. Humanity had won. Earth was safe, for now. The Council had been defeated, but not destroyed. They would return. Admiral Vasquez stood in the wreckage of the war room, staring at the names of the fallen. Too many lives lost. Too high a cost. Cole joined him, blood still on his uniform. What now? Vasquez exhaled. Now? He turned to the stars. "We take the fight to them."